Hello and welcome to Perspectives, where we'll take a deep dive into the issues of the day and where we'll take a look at people's opinion on such issues. I am Ruth Osime. What began as reports of a tense airport encounter with the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasiru El-Rufai, has now evolved into a broader legal and institutional confrontation. The former governor was initially invited over his allegations linked to phone tapping involving the office of the National Security Advisor. He has now been arrested and formally brought into the legal process after his recent investigation by federal authorities. For many Nigerians, the pattern feels familiar: dramatic political clashes, sharp public exchanges, and intense media scrutiny, sometimes followed by quiet recalibration. So the central question is this a defining institutional test for Nigeria's democracy, or another episode of elite contests amplified in the media space? Today, we move beyond the noise and examine the legal implications, the security dimensions, and the political calculations that shape public perception. We're heading for a short break, but stay with us because in a brief moment, I will have the pleasure of introducing my distinguished guests. Inibehe Effiong, Dr. Dixon Osajie, and Achike Chude. Perspectives will return in just a moment. Welcome back to Perspectives, the Honorized News. It's now time to introduce my guests on the show today, including Inibehe Effiong, a lawyer and public affairs analyst who has built up an impressive profile as an advocate of human and legal rights. In the course of his career, Inibehe has handled a lot of public interest cases, including offering pro bono services to those who cannot afford the cost of legal presentation. Joining us too for this topic is Dr. Dixon Osajie, the Managing Director and CEO of Deep Breeze Protection Services Limited, an internationally certified security and counter-terrorism expert who offers insight on terrorism, security management, and global threats. And last but certainly not the least is Chude Achike, the National Secretary of Nigerian Union of Journalists. He's a writer, novelist, renowned civil society figure, media practitioner, and public affairs analyst. Chude will be joining us soon during the course of the program. But anyway, for two of you here, it's a delight to have both of you. Now, of course, let me start with you, the security experts. You know, if, as according to Nasiru El-Rufai, the NSA's phone, National Security Advisor's phone, was tapped into, what does this reveal about Nigeria's national security, and how could hostile actors take advantage of this?
Thank you very much. I think it was a shocker, you know, and I was very amazed when he personally claimed that the National Security Advisor phone has been tapped. Mm-hmm. And I see that as an assault on our national security. It's not about Roberto, it's not about his person, it's about the Office of the National Security Advisor that coordinates strategic intelligence, counter-terrorism management, and as well coordinates intelligence drives between the Army, Navy, Air Force, and as well the DSS and other security agents. So if we have a person of Malam Nasiru El-Rufai claiming that he also tapped the phone of the National Security Advisor, and when he was asked,
he said he tapped. He said he listened.
Yes, they listened. Yeah,
he didn't say he personally.
Yeah, he didn't say personally tapped. Yeah.
Does he listen to
now, they listened to his conversation, and when he was asked, he said, "Well, the National Security Advisor, the government also, listen to people's conversation." As if that was okay. I think that is a disturbing situation, Ruth, because this should never happen. And as a country in Nigeria, where we have been faced with security issues, terrorism issues, and a lot of incidents all across board from our country, and we have somebody claiming that the Office of the National Security Advisor's communication system is being tapped. I think the communication security system of the National Security Advisor needs to be reviewed as well. An assessment needs to be carried out, and the InfoSec also needs to be carried out, because such statement is not good for the development of our great country, because I see that as an assault on our strategic security management in this great country. So it's a regrettable situation.
But what about what he also said, that national security, the security advisor there and their team also tap into people's phones? Are they allowed to do that, or yes, can it be done?
Yeah, it can be done through legal means, But I tell you that whatever the situation is, the survival of Nigeria is taken as the topmost priority. If there's anything that will bring down this great nation, there's what we call speed and momentum. You can act with speed and momentum to ensure that you cut off that threat bedeviling the great country of Nigeria. So if this man claimed that the government also listening to conversation. Perhaps maybe they're trying to carry out tracking assessment, or maybe they're trying to see if there's anyone trying to carry out an attack against the Nigerian state. But if we have this happening on our own security agents, I tell you, security issues is really disturbing.
How can actors exploit such vulnerabilities?
Yes, they can exploit it because, first of all, let's take the Nigerian military.
Of how they can do.
Yes, for example, the Nigerian military, sometimes you carry out an attack against this terrorist group, and sometimes they got intelligence and says, okay, we're going to advance, to capture one or two elements. And if most of this hostile, because there's one thing we call surveillance and counter-surveillance. Hostile surveillance simply implies that you carry out an assessment or communication, assessment of your enemy, so that you'll be able to take out your enemy at any given situation. But hostile guys now, if this is true, I tell you that Nigeria is not safe, because that implies that from the strategic level, because we have to look at the COG, center of gravity now, from the strategic level, that implies that our communication system is not safe. And these hostile guys, when they capitalize on that, they'll be able to determine what the Nigerian government is about to do in the area of security management, terrorism management, and counter-terrorism. And it's also going to put us in the negative light,
Okay. Let's talk about... Let's talk about the legal aspect of this. If someone claims they access these communications, where does the Nigerian law draw the line between whistleblowing and criminal exposure?
Thank you for having me. In the United States, they have a law called the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, and they also have what they call Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act. Now, under the FISA regime in the US, before the government said the Federal Bureau of Investigation or other agencies of the US government can lawfully access the communications of Americans or anybody in the US, they have to go before a judge ordinarily, file an expert application before a judge. The judge will scrutinize the basis for having access to this such communication and decide whether to give permission or not. In fact, in the US, such judges are specifically designated for such purpose. I'm saying that based on the comment of my colleague who has said that the government ordinarily can access the communication of citizens. No.
Legally.
Oh, they can't?
No.
Not legally?
No. Well, legally, yes, but what is the process? If you look at Section 37 of the Constitution, it says that the privacy of citizens, of every person, including their homes, telephone conversation, and telegraphic communication,
what if they are bandits?
Is thereby guaranteed and protected.
What if they are bandits?
Yes, I'm saying that under the enabling legal framework, including the Terrorism Prevention Act, the Nigerian Communications Act, the Cyber Crimes Prohibition Act, and other relevant legislative framework laws, there are circumstances in which the government may, I use the word may, be allowed to intercept communications in the interest of national security. Yeah. But what we have seen...
Shouldn't that be automatic, though?
Yes, what we have seen, and there's a reason why I'm starting on that basis before I speak directly to the question. What we seem to see in Nigeria is that more often than not, these things are done arbitrarily, without any recourse to due process, without any recourse to any legal review by a judge. Now, when you have that kind of climate where this kind of power of the government can even be deployed to target opposition figures, to target activists, you begin to wonder the legitimacy of such actions. So I agree with him that the comment of Nasser El-Rufai, former governor of Kaduna State, is unfortunate. It should not be encouraged. I do not agree with him that the phone of the NSA should be monitored, or the phone of any other person for that matter. So I deprecate that if actually that is correct. However, on the issue of whistleblowing and all that, the point is clear. If there is a basis to infer that a communication is taking place that can lead to security of life or that can prevent act of terrorism, then the government may want to explore legal means to have access to such communication. So within the legal framework, our laws is not very clear on circumstances in which the government can do that. If you look at the Cyber Crimes Act, for example, there is no provision, express provision of the Act that enables the government to monitor communications of Nigerians.
But shouldn't there be one like that? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to prevent crime.
That is what I'm saying. Because if yes, it is true that rights are not absolute. The right to privacy is not absolute. But what the Constitution says, what section 37 of the Constitution says, is that any derogation, any form of derogation, by that I mean departure from the rights guaranteed by the Constitution, has to be in a manner prescribed by law. Okay. And not only by law, but that law has to be one that is reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. Reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. Now, Nigeria has some of these laws that I have mentioned. But when you examine those laws, you now ask the question, does it empower government to intercept communications of Nigerians? If the government really wants to fight terrorism, what they are supposed to do is that if you believe that some communications, go before a judge, file an it can be heard in chambers. It doesn't have to even be heard in the open court. A judge can hear it in chambers. So I am saying that based on my understanding and based on my knowledge of this subject, I do not believe that in most cases that due process is followed at all. So, and let me also tell you, a few years ago, Premium Times, credible Nigerian media organization, undertook an investigation that revealed that even state governors have surveillance tools. Akwa Ibom, my home state, is one of those states that was mentioned, that was indicted, I use the word indicted, for purchasing equipment for that purpose. Not necessarily for security of the citizens, but for governors and other actors to monitor the activities of their opponents. Yes, which is very reckless. So the National Security Advisor has the responsibility to come out to tell Nigerians the legal framework that they have that allows these kind of things to happen. Now, regarding the El-Rufai comment, it is good, it's going to be arraigned on Wednesday. It is left to be seen the ramifications that this trial is going to take. Whether the government truly wants to prosecute it, because I have taken a position as the Nigerian that I do not believe that the federal government sincerely wants to prosecute El-Rufai. And why so? Well, I said that because there are things I feel, there are things that by my estimation ought to have been addressed before they took him to court.
Like what?
They should have asked him questions. They should have asked him questions.
What kind of questions should they have asked him?
Who were the people? Who are the persons that told you? Is the person that told you?
Are you sure that's not what they're going to ask him now that he's in their custody?
After filing a charge?
No, but is it not enough to even charge him? The fact that he even made that statement in the first place?
It is left for the court to decide. My own assessment, go and listen to what he said. He's an intelligent person. I don't like his politics. I don't like his human rights records. But El-Rufai, to his credit, he's a very brilliant person.
Yeah, that's notwithstanding.
I am saying that in his comments on this station, Arise News, he said someone tapped.
Yes, and he listens.
And told me. He said, we listen.
Yes.
We.
Yes.
He didn't say I. He said we, which possibly includes him. How do they listen? Is it that when they... So I am saying that there's a cloud of uncertainty regarding what he said. And how to resolve that is to undertake investigation, looking at the speed by which this took place. It is doubtful whether really the government really wants to investigate this matter or really wants to prosecute. Because
they won't want to investigate.
Ruth, because
nothing has been that flagrant in the way he
no,
said
because they first have to admit that indeed the NSA's phone was tapped. I'm not sure they are willing to do that.
No, but his arrest doesn't. Them arresting him doesn't mean that the NSS is agreeing that the phone was tapped.
do you understand my? My friend who is a security analyst, he will understand the implications of that.
They are openly agreeing that yes, El-Rufai was correct.
Ruth, I will slightly take a departure from what Enebe is talked about, because there's a bridge between security and law. You understand? One thing about any given nation is survival. After the 9/11 attack during President George Bush, the United States of America came up with the Patriot Act, and that Patriot Act gives room for wiretapping. What they did was that they started going after this terrorist group, because you can't tell me that you want to go to the court and say, hey, we want to go and check this terrorist group, we want to wiretap this terrorist group, or we want to access their phone. No. So that Patriot Act simply granted the United States government the privilege and opportunity, to wiretap terrorist groups and ensure that they follow them up to date. And that was how Osama bin Laden was tracked and, eliminated. Because what they did was that all effort put in place to trace him proved abortive. What do you usually do? It goes to his email, because he knew that they are tapping him. He goes to his email, draft a message for his people, just send the password to them. And what those people do is that they will go and access the email and go to the ad box. To go to the draft. When you want to send an email and you abandon it, you can go back to the email, check the draft, and you pick up that email and you send it. So these terrorist guys, what they're doing is that they no longer communicate. Osama bin Laden was passing message through his draft. He would just send an email, and that email won't transmit it, because if you transmit it, I think these United States guys will, intercept it. So we just leave it in the draft and send the password to his own email. Somebody will access the email and go to the draft and read the message. Then they carry out attack. So the Patriot Act 2011 that was, established by the United States, granted the United States force the opportunity and privilege to wiretap, criminal elements that poses threat to the survival of the state. So for us, we are talking about wiretapping criminal elements. And I strongly believe, well, I'm not a lawyer. I would have thought it would have been an automatic. But for me, I strongly believe, as a country, the survival of Nigeria comes first before any given thing. Because if someone is about to attack this country and you say, you need to rush to the court to get clearance from the judge before you prevent such issue, Nigeria will be wiped out. So I think the NSA office has that right for me to carry out such act. If only we have a law if we can pass a law on that aspect. Yeah.
Achike is in the house now, but let me just finish with this one because it's a bit, the area is still blurred. So are you not? Is it not automatically in the rule in the law that NSA security agencies, do you understand, automatically have the right to tap into the phone of terrorists and bandits
No. You allow them to strike.
We have to be careful.
So you have to wait for them to strike before you get...
I want to be understood. Section 37 of the Constitution, the good norm of this country, I quoted it verbatim, expressly. It says, the privacy of citizens, including their telephone conversations and telegraphic communications, is hereby guaranteed and protected.
Yeah, even if
I am saying that if you want to depart from that right, it has to be in a manner prescribed by law, reasonably just. If what we are saying here is tenable, why are the kidnappers not being tracked? Why is it that terrorists are on TikTok taunting Nigerians and the government is not able to intercept?
But why not? Why can't they do that?
I am asking, how come that the government has this capacity, yet the security is so prevalent? Till date, it speaks to something. That either the government
should it not be addressed
why have they not been addressed?
Okay,
that is what I'm saying.
Why hasn't it been addressed?
Why has it not been addressed? Should communications of terrorists be monitored? Yes.
Yes.
The first question is, who is a terrorist?
But there's some known terrorists. They're all over TikTok.
So there has to be a breach between the rights of the people and national security, because eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. When you give government absolute power, what they will most likely do in a country like ours that institutions are weak is that they will not only exploit it, they will abuse it. And we have seen examples that it has been abused.
Yeah, but we are talking about known terrorists.
Yes, I'm telling you, those known terrorists in Nigeria.
Who don't even
I agree with you, but those known terrorists, how come that they are almost having a free hand?
Because from what you are saying, their phones cannot be tapped.
That is not what the government is saying. I am saying that under the law. And if you say that there are terrorists that are communicating, Ruth, it doesn't take 24 hours to file an expert application. Go before a judge and say, we believe that there are people within this locality. And if they are already proscribed as terrorists under the Terrorism Prevention Act, that is a different matter.
So it only takes 24 hours to get that.
No, I'm saying it doesn't take, within 24 hours they can do it. I mean, look at how quickly they file a charge against El-Rufai. And on Wednesday it's going to be arraigned. The legal system has allowances that the government can explore. I am saying, and I want to be understood clearly, that if they are, for example, Boko Haram is a proscribed, it's a terrorist organization.
Exactly, yes.
Of course, within the context of the Terrorism Prevention Act, they cannot be laying claims to rights that are guaranteed under Chapter 4 of the Constitution. Right? The government got IPOC proscribed, right? If you say an organization or an entity or a group of persons are engaged in terrorist activities, for you to even say that they are terrorists within the context of an organization, you have to get an order of court to make that prescription. We must not allow our cherished rights as Nigerians to be taken away by government at will. Otherwise, violations will continue. And if the government is truly honest about this conversation, they should come out and tell Nigerians why terrorists are having a free hand. Look at what is happening in Kwara Route. There's a local government now where teachers have refused to resume because the school principal was kidnapped. As I speak to you, many parts of the country, people have run away from their communities, they are in IDP camps. Yeah. Why is it that the Nigerian government, despite that some of these groups have been proscribed, they are not able to bring them to justice?
Now why can't they handle
the same urgency as they handle? It is when you go on social media and say something bad against Tinubu, suddenly SSS will begin to look for you. It is when you abuse politicians. That is when you find the capacity of the Nigerian government. They will trace you. Like the gentleman who tweeted something, they said he was supporting coup on X, even with an account that was not ordinarily traceable. They were able to locate him. Why is it that the government in Nigeria is strong with critics and opposition
selective,
and then weak with terrorists? It means that either the government is supporting the terrorism or the government simply is so inefficient to fight terrorism. Whichever way it is, the government is complicit.
The efficiency. Okay, we're going on a short break right now, and then we'll be right back soon. Don't go anywhere. Get a cup of tea, as I always say, and see you soon. Welcome back to Perspectives. So where is Achike? Can we have him in the house, please? I hear he's around. Achike, good to see you. Can you hear me?
It's a pleasure here, Ruth.
Yes. Okay. Before you came, we were discussing the whole El-Rufai saga and the security aspect and the legal aspect as well. But one thing I have noticed is that former supporters that now turn critics. For instance, when former allies become critics of a government that they once supported so strongly, how should citizens interpret this? Is it personal grievance, political theater, or just strategic positioning?
Yeah, it could be all. It could be all of these things. Yes, I can hear you. It could be all of these things that you talked about. Obviously, we have to look at the background of these people and then also ask ourselves the kind of, what they are made of. Are they people of good character? Are they worthy people? Are they trustworthy people? Are they people that the public has a lot of regards for? Are they people that we think are motivated always primarily by self-interest? And so if we're able to, have a proper, description or idea of who these people are, we could perhaps have an idea about what their motivations are. You are talking about politicians, especially, El-Rufai is a politician. And politicians always gravitate, just like most human beings, towards, preserving their interest. So obviously he fell out with the ruling party, was a staunch member of the ruling party, a major player, in the politics of the country, especially within the, ruling party. But he's also somebody, if we are talking of El-Rufai now, he's also somebody that has switched loyalty from time to time. He, we are told, was brought into the political limelight by Atiku, but fell out with Atiku, after some time. He had new bedfellows, had new friends, and gravitated towards them. And then when it appeared that he had fallen out of favor, obviously he found new friends, new bedfellows. And again, a lot of people allude to the fact that it was because he was not given, he was isolated or not in the running or in the consideration for appointment by the time APC achieved a victory in 2023, and that everything that we see today is a manifestation of whatever grudge he has against the party and perhaps against the president. These are speculations, only he can answer at this. But again, that is not to say that people, even people who are aggrieved sometimes do not speak the truth. So we don't know. But I think one thing I would say again, politicians do strange things or normal things when it comes to politics. This is an election period. We know we are slowly moving towards 2027 for the general election. And so any pound of flesh you can exact on your political opponent, anything that will chip away at their, at their armor, then, it is a fair game. It is fair game. Don't forget, I think it was Fayemi, former governor for Osun State, after the APC had come to power, and people were talking about challenging them on the promises that they had made to the Nigerian people in terms of energy and so many other things. And he said openly that all of these things he alluded to the fact that they were lies and that they were used as, political cudgel to beat their political opponent to gain electoral victory. So for all you know, we don't know what is motivating Rufai, but he is, when it comes to politics, he is also very Machiavellian in his disposition to politics in this country. All the end justifies the means, and that is not to exonerate the NSA from the accusations that he has made against it, but the accusations. And in law they say he who alleges must prove. So when you make some of these allegations, and you must prove, and don't forget, especially when it comes to the issue of eavesdropping on the phone conversations of the NSA. It has been proven sometimes that when you want publicity, you go and ask some of the terrorists who have laid claim to bombings that they did not actually participate in. The fact that a group, maybe a terrorist activity takes place and the bombing has taken place and a group comes out to claim responsibility for that bombing doesn't mean that they were actually the group that took responsibility. So it's only subject to investigation. And so he says they listen to the National Security Advisor and the rest. That is not to say that that is not an indication that they actually did. It is left for the security agencies. I think the DSS is looking into it to see whether it is actually true. Oftentimes, when you have, serial killers, especially in those countries that have data, when somebody commits a crime, there are all manners of crank calls from different people who tell you that they are the ones that committed the crime. Some even go to the police to say that they are the ones that committed the crime. But when they are investigated, when they are asked questions, the police realize that they do not even have the basic knowledge about what happened during the crime itself. So it's for the authorities to investigate that, and then, we'll see, how it goes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chude. That was a very lengthy response. We'll get back to you. Let me get to Osajie in the house. What practical steps, considering this whole controversy about leakage and no leakages of tape, what practical steps can agencies take to reassure the public of that their security is tight without compromising operations?
Ruth, fantastic.
How do they send that message across that we can build our trust in them?
Yes, fantastic question. Sometimes when we look at the media space, you discover that most intelligence communication are being shown on many platforms. You discover that maybe if the police is transmitting a signal, you see it on social platform, and they sometimes use WhatsApp to transmit information that is just detrimental to the survival of Nigeria. So for me, I think it's a holistic review of our communication system. The President Chief of Army Staff, General Shaibu, we both served in 245 Reki Battalion, and we were both in Operation Harmony 4, Bakassi Peninsula in the 90s. During that operation, whenever we are communicating, even the signals, when they are communicating, passing a message to soldiers in the front line, soldiers themselves cannot even decode that signal that's been transmitted from the signal department to we soldiers in the front line. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that we need to start looking at signal intelligence as a key component to the survival of this great country, because you don't transmit information on WhatsApp these days, you don't transmit information on email these very days, because you can be intercepted, and when you're intercepted, your operation can be aborted, and that can risk the life of our officers and men who are advancing towards this criminal element or trying to carry out some form of hostile attack or counter-intelligence insurgency attack against the enemy. So for me, the Nigerian government, like the NSA office, needs to also review its communication security as well to ensure that, hey, we don't communicate or call or place a call towards one or two counterparts or intelligence counterparts because it can be intercepted. They should create a form of communication network so that no individual, even within its office, can intercept that communication system, because we're talking about the survival of our country, Nigeria. If such intelligence are being intercepted, it can place Nigeria in a state of risk. And also, Barrister Enebe has laid some fantastic points in the area of law. I think it's the right time for the National Security Advisor or the government to start looking at maybe passing a Patriot Act as well, because the Patriot Act is an act that restricts the rights of some criminal element, most especially terrorists, because if you pose this threat to the Nigerian people, I don't think the Nigerian government needs to rush to the courts to restrict you from destroying human lives. So a lot of things need to be done from the legal perspective, so that we'll tighten up that angle and ensure that the Office of the National Security Advisor has the power of autonomy to ensure that they can, go into criminal networks and break into their dark networks, get their communication. Because, Ruth, we have what we call the preventive measures. If you don't go before the laws, I tell you, most of these acts will be perpetrated before we, respond. That's why preventive measures comes, proactive measures come, and responsive measures comes to play. So in the area of preventive measures, you go before the laws. That's what security is all about. Go before the laws, because when you go after the laws, security has been defeated. Security has been abused. That is why every persons from the National Security Advisors, the Army, Navy, Air Force, the DSS needs to come together and review their communication security system and information security system, so that sensitive information cannot be seen flying around the media space.
Okay, let me get on to. Thanks for that very deep analysis. Let me get to you. When former officials face legal or political pressure, similar to measures that they once enforced, because El-Rufai too has been accused of using the same draconian methods that is accusing the government of being used against him, of using it against him now. How should institutions ensure consistency rather than perception of vendetta? How do people know that it's selective justice that is being done, and not that the person is being, made a victim out of because of what he has said about them?
My attitude to this matter is that every political office holder or politically exposed person who has been entrusted with public resources at one time or the other should be subjected to what I call the ghost of stewardship. The legal system should be designed in a way, should function in a way that when you occupy public office, even while you're occupying that office, it should be possible to hold you to account. The tragedy for our country, quite sadly, is that we have found historically that more often than not, law enforcement activities targeted at politically exposed persons seems to be more vociferous, seems to be more forceful when those individuals are in the opposition.
Yes, like political karma.
Yeah, so it's not supposed to be. The law should be non-partisan. The application of the law also should be blind to political loyalties. But the perception is always that if you are the friend of the president, if you are a member or an influential figure in the ruling party, that in some sense, gives you this sense of invincibility, such that you begin to find law enforcement agencies looking weak in bringing people to justice. On the El-Rufai case in particular, I am fully, entirely, unreservedly in support of any legal process that will make him to account for his governance of Kaduna State.
Yeah, but why is it being brought up now? Why didn't they do it since?
It is
the timing is also
the one
suspect.
That I find very baffling is the investigation as reported, and I say as reported in the media, by the State Security Service of the disappearance of an activist called Daddy Yatta.
Yes, that was also very controversial.
Ruth, why has it taken years?
No, but El-Rufai has also accused...
No, why did we have to wait as a country? Why did the SSS have to wait until El-Rufai said or insinuated on this same channel?
He accused the former governor of Kano State being
that Ganduje, it was the problem of the Kano State governor, not Kaduna State governor. Why did we have to wait? Why did we have to wait for El-Rufai to make that comment before the Nigerian law enforcement institutions felt it was necessary to look into the disappearance of a lecturer, an activist, a father and a husband.
Yeah.
Why did they have to wait? What that shows you is that this is not an action taken in good faith necessarily. Because if this is in good faith, the investigation into the disappearance of Daddy, that should have been an ongoing process from the first day. But no, the government had to wait until an opponent, an opposition figure in quotes, because I use the word in quotes, because El-Rufai is one of those who brought this government to power. We have to speak truth to that. Why did they have to wait? Now, if the EFCC, of course the EFCC have invited him, they have interrogated him, they have released him, I believe he's now in the custody of the ICPC. Whatever law enforcement agency has a case regarding management of resources of armed, completely, 100% in support. Let him undergo the process. Let him answer the questions. If there is evidence implicating him, please charge him. But don't stop at El-Rufai. My position remains that every former governors in particular, because I've always said that governors in Nigeria are more corrupt, more dictatorial than the president. Ruth, at the national level, as we have seen we saw in the House of Reps, in the passage of the now 2026 Electoral Act, you can have some members of the National Assembly symbolically speaking against the position of the majority, the ruling party. At the state, what you saw in the House of Reps, where some members walked out when they were not heard on the issue of transmission, you cannot find one House of Assembly in Nigeria today that is possible. The Makrebe Downs in Rivers State, everybody knows that the House of Assembly is not fighting for Barra because of governance. It is because of political disagreement with Wike. What is the point? The point is that in this country, we have trivialized our institutions. We have personalized our institutions. Let all former governors, not only El-Rufai, including those in the ruling party, including those who govern my state, Akwa Ibom, including those who govern other states in the country, let them also have their day with the EFCC. Let them also have their day with the ICPC. There are governors in this country that have been accused, implicated seriously of being involved in extrajudicial killings. How come that they are not investigated? Why is it that it is only when somebody disagrees with the president or somebody does not want an incumbent to return to office, that is when suddenly we'll begin to see an action? There are many people today. I mean, we heard Osajie say it. We heard Ganduje say it. John APC and your sins are forgiven. That is not how to govern a country. We don't have to wait until you have an El-Rufai who brought Tinubu to power. He no longer wants Tinubu to return to power, and then El-Rufai is being invited to answer for his stewardship. But that notwithstanding, I support the process of investigation, but let it be non-partisan. Let all of them have their day. And the Ganduje matter, for example, how come that a person who was caught on video collecting foreign currency, where we now had the name Gandola, why is it that you date? He has not had his day in court. He even became the chairman of the ruling party. No, I mean, this is a serious matter. Why is it that these are questions that Nigerians must ask? Because today, everybody has to come to the APC. I'm telling you, all the governors are now running to the APC. There is a reason why they are decamping. They are not decamping because this government has done so well in economy. This government has protected the lives of Nigerians. Maybe they believe that if we joined and wear the Milokon cap, if we all become city boys, our city atrocities will be pardoned. That seems to be the message, the signal they are sending to us. And this is important because in looking at the El-Rufai case, Nigerians are justified in demanding that all the other governors in Nigeria should be subjected to the same process. We should not be selective in our investigations. We should not be partisan in our prosecutions. The fact that you are in the ruling party should not give you some sense of immunity. Should not shield you from law enforcement. We had I believe he's still the NAN's president, who was Ruth, abducted, tortured, severely beaten. Later he was released. We were hearing that the child of the president was involved. I don't know whether that is true, but that was what he said, Ruth. The SSS did not invite Seyi Tinubu to interrogate him. The police did not invite Seyi Tinubu that this NAN's president, that Nigerians have seen him in pain with injury. What happened to him? Why is it that law enforcement in Nigeria seems to only be a bit, some sense effective once you disagree with the government in power? We saw the case in Edo State when Dr. Pedro Baseki, who we are now told the SSS wants to prosecute or arrest or has gone after some of those who are harassing. We saw how he was assaulted. Okay? The point is that if you look at the criminality that is going on across the country, it looks like some people are just above the law. And I am saying that this is not how to build a country. If we really want to fight law enforcement, it should not matter whether your name is El-Rufai, it should not matter whether your name is Ribadu, it should not matter who you are. Whether you are in APC, whether you are in ADC, whether you are in Labour Party, whichever political party that you are, the legal system should be blind to you. The legal system should be neutral.
Thank you, Nibehe. Thank you for that long answer that you have given us. It really touched a few raw nerves, if you must admit. So I want to ask you, are there specific things that can be done to correct this break of security? What steps should the NSA take to ensure that things like this don't happen again?
Well, for me, I think first of all, it's accountability, and also lead by example. Most times people think that when you are in power, like Barrister Inebe rightly talk about people decamping and Nigerians becoming a one-party state. For me, I think what matters most is accountability. People should be held accountable for crime they commit. And I've said it on many fora that crime and punishment works hand in hand. If you don't punish people for crime they commit, crime keeps on flourishing. And for me, if I want to advise this present administration, I think they should try to see how they limit selective justice. Because what I've seen going around this space is selective justice. If you are for them, you are not being punished. If you are against them, they will come after you. And that is why, as a country, we must try to eliminate such kind of selective justice systems for us to grow as a great nation. Because if we keep on allowing things like this to happen, what matters is that people will begin to lose hope in our country. A lot of criminal elements will say, hey, Nigeria is a lawless country. And that is why, Ruth, sometimes in 2017 or so, I personally saw the migration of foreign transnational criminal elements coming to Nigeria because they've seen the vulnerable state of our security agent. Like Nebe already talked about, how come that our leaders are unable to track criminals on TikTok? How come they are unable to track criminals on social media? For me, I see that as an absence of political will, because when it comes to protection of lives and property, speed and momentum is very, very essential, very, very important. And we must not romance the state of insecurity or try to see as if we are playing a form of friendly match. These Nigerian lives and Nigerian lives matters. So the security agency needs to go back and review the national security policy and also ensure that most of the feedbacks they are getting from the media, getting from the Nigerian people, they bring it on board and also analyze, assess it, and ensure that they locate it into the national security strategy. Because for me, that national security strategy, I can tell you for free that it's not really effective, because if it's effective, we'll not have a situation where criminal elements will go, move over 200 human beings, not animals, and go away with them without being pursued, without being overtaken, and also brought back to justice. For me, I think that we are lacking in that area. That's why Donald Trump says Nigeria is a country of particular concern. Yeah. But if you ask me, Ruth, truly Nigeria is a country of particular concern when you have people claiming that they wiretap the conversation of the National Security Advisor. And I think the National Security Advisor should also, bring his team on board and ensure that their communication line should be reviewed effectively so that they don't put the Nigerian lives at risk.
Before I get to, thank you so much, Osajie. Before I get to Achike in the house, I want to go back to the comment you made. Do you have any, you mentioned Tinubu and insinuated he was involved in certain things, but do you have any allegations to support your, any facts to support your allegations?
Fact check me. Anyone listening to, I said, I like clarity of thought. A gentleman, Nan's president, came out directly accusing him. I'm just restating what the whole public saw. Whether what he said was true or not, I don't know. So but I'm saying, I'm restating that someone came on record crying to Nigeria that this was what happened to me till date. No investigation. Later, I watched the video. Do you know what happened? You know who was arrested? It was the victim. It was the victim that was arrested by the same law enforcement agency. The SSS should have, you saw it?
Yeah.
How come that at the time of that his cry, nobody invited him to ask him questions. It was not even the victim that was later taken into custody, forced to recount what he said.
No,
why is it that?
But if
I'm saying, why is it that there was no interest?
But the guy, the Nance guy, he withdrew his comments.
Under what circumstance?
We don't know.
Under what circumstance?
To the public.
After putting him in custody? I mean, after putting him in custody, I am saying that in this country,
an analogy based on what you saw. Not that you know
no, based on what is publicly available. That if we are a serious country that believes in the rule of law, if I come out and say that so and so individual or people working for him abducted me, assaulted me, a country that has rule of law enforcement agencies should be interested in talking to me. Effiong, Mr. A has accused you that you abducted him. Do you have a hand in this matter? But if Mr. A is now the one that is being arrested,
okay, don't worry.
I mean, you know something is wrong.
Let's not overflog the issue. This was just a side comment based on what you said, and I just wanted to make sure you clarified your stand on the matter. So can we get to Achike in the house, please? Achike, we haven't forgotten you.
Yes.
So let me ask you.
Okay. Well, you know.
Oh, can I ask you the question, or you want to make a reference? Okay. Now, when elite conflicts dominate media coverage, does it distract citizens from governance, economic challenges, or is it democratic accountability? Because at the end of the day, how can media coverage balance political drama with substantive governance reporting?
It depends on how you look at it. You know, there are some citizens. Citizens usually like. If you ask the average Nigerian, they will tell you that they like what is going on. There's a possibility that they could distract from the issues, you know, the major issues at play in the country. But there are people that Nigerians will tell you that they like what is happening among people that they have issues with. That perhaps the more they fight against themselves, the more they have this in fighting, the more revelations will come out about what is actually transpiring in government. And we've had that several times in this country. So it depends on how you look at it, you know. Yeah, I think it's a good development. I mean, that's what opposition politics is all about. That's what the politicians do. That's what political parties do. What they look for is the underbelly of their political opponents and look for ways to undermine them and weaken them in the process. So and I think Nigerians are generally happy about that. But it is not always, you know, that it's usually when the elites quarrel among themselves that you now realize that something is happening within the polity. In the past 2 weeks, we know how the media focused and civil society organizations focused on the transmission of results. So that was a people-centered movement, a people-centered struggle at that particular point in time. You know, but then there are also questions, even going beyond this. There are questions that are being asked in the studio about why terrorists are not being apprehended, why the same technology that we are complaining about right now, it has not been used against the terrorists and the rest. It's a simple answer, really, what is happening in Nigeria. Of course, you know that by global standards, Nigeria occupies a unique position now in terms of unfortunately, tragically so too, in terms of the violence that has been going on in this country. It has gotten to a point of not just tragic proportion, but also a point of ridicule and embarrassment for us, even as Nigerians, especially those who are abroad, who have to be told every day that another 200 people have been killed or 150 people have been killed and so on. It's terrible. But it's like I said, the answer is simple. The weakness of the Nigerian state. So you can ask any question you want to ask in the studio, why this is not being done. Nigeria is in a bad state because the state itself is weak, because the institutions of the state that are supposed to prop up the state are also weak. Now, why they are weak is a completely different, you know, question. But we know that we have ample resources. We have what it takes. We have the population, which in itself is a strength. And we also have resources, which is also a strength. So with all of these things, you should be able to turn things around in the country. If you look at all the elements of national power, whether you're talking about population, science, you know, the growth of science and technology, the geopolitical, the geolocation of a country, or even the strength of the military, the most important of all of the national elements is leadership. And leadership, we have been told, has been the bane of this country. Because with political leadership in a country like Singapore was transformed. With political leadership, the desert oasis, of the Middle East was transformed. And in a space of 25, 30, 40 years, look at what is happening in China today. It's all about political leadership. But that seems to be the major issue that has been deprived this country, that we do not have the right kind of political leadership that can actually drive all of the other elements of national power and drive the country towards set objectives for the good of all. So that is the issue. So we can ask questions about why this insecurity is going on and the rest, but everything boils down to the weakness of the Nigerian state and the weakness of the institutions that are supposed to be propping up the Nigerian state today.
Okay. So thank you so much, Ajike, for that. I want to ask a last question, generated for everybody. We've spoken to Ajike. I want to ask you and Inibehe, how do you think El-Rufai's approach compares with other leaders who have taken the high road in public life? Just a brief.
For me, I think El-Rufai has displayed an act of bad modeling. It's not a good role model because for the purpose of those, for the youth listening to this program, what El-Rufai has done is an act of criminal behavior, or him and his gang, because I strongly believe that as an elite or a person of his caliber, what you should have done is that if you see things like that, you should have reported it to the security agent and say, hey, the NSA phone is being wiretapped. For him to also participate or claim that he participated or he listened to the conversation shows that he's not a good role model, and I think that his action is strongly condemnable.
Okay, Nibe,
What?
Brief.
Clearly,
out of time.
I state again for the record, I distance myself from what El-Rufai said. I do not endorse it. I do not welcome it. But let the government not use hypocrisy as the national policy. If this government is serious, if this government is genuine about fighting crime, they must live by it. We have to see clearly that they want to fight. And I don't know whether we have elites in this country. I choose to call them the political class. Because those who are elites, they think about the future. We have a senator from Rivers State who just passed in UK. We had a former president, Muhammadu Buhari, who passed in UK. Ruth, why is it that all our political leaders are going to UK to die? They destroy Nigeria, they make life unbearable for us, they go abroad to live, they die abroad, and their corpse is brought back to be buried in the same country. Nigeria should not remain a mortuary for the wicked political class in this country. We have had enough. If they are serious, let them begin to think about the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Inibehe Effiong, for your feisty company as usual, and thank you so much also, Osajie Dixon, and thank you, Chude, for the most riveting conversation today. So, whether this becomes a landmark institutional moment or just another political episode will depend on one thing: fairness in process. Institutions must stand above personalities, and citizens must demand accountability long after the headlines fade. That's all we have time for today. You've been watching Perspective here on Arise News with me, Ruth Osime. Until same time next week, do have a great time. God bless.